was there a time, and I have to imagine there was, where you felt like quitting became an option, where it was like,
No,
okay,
there was never a doubt I could finish this, right? And I think it was
okay,
yeah, I was going to finish this. I mean,
mm,
part of it too for me was like, I'm not coming back here and doing this again. It's
okay.
like it's like now or never.
Welcome to On Your Lead, the show about the miles that make you better at life, leadership, and everything in between. I'm Thad David, a Marine Recon Scout Sniper veteran, speaker, and endurance athlete. Let's get into it.
Welcome to another episode. I'm here with Christine O'Hara. How are you doing, Christine?
Good. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you that do not know, Christine finished the Moab 240 DFL, which actually means, and it was a new title for me that I learned about, and it's your title, but it actually means dead effing last, which is apparently a big celebration. Is that
Yes.
what you saw
And it was
there?
new for me too. Yes.
Yeah.
A giant celebration.
Yeah, I didn't realize, and I'd love to see it all come together at the end of it. But before we even get into Moab and your journey there, Christine, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for having me. I grew up in Minnesota. I live out east now, right outside New York City, but grew up in Minnesota playing ice hockey. So sports had always been a big part of my life. And, kind of through that journey, continued to work out post-college, just used to that athletic lifestyle and started to get into triathlons, Ironmans, and then ultimately ultras, which led to kind of the dream of doing Moab, which is really exciting. But I'm a sales executive in the city. I have two little kids, which are my pride and joy, boy, girl, Harvey and Aubrey. And yeah, it's been a fun journey, kind of balancing all of it with a race as big as Moab and kind of the result that's happened with it, which was, yes, finishing, but DFL.
Yeah, well, and it's amazing to me everything that you have going on in your life and that you're able to put in because I can't even imagine the amount of training that you had to put in to make that happen. But before we do that too, I want to circle back, because before this, you actually mentioned when we were just kind of chatting before we pressed record, I know we were talking about Pikes Peak Marathon, and you had mentioned that your dad was actually, you have a picture of him doing Pikes Peak Marathon, and you had done the half. And so this has kind of always been, you've been exposed to running for a pretty long time.
Really long time. So my dad, I mean, he was a football player in college, but also similar, just had that discipline his whole life. So after college sports, continued to just work out and dabble into running. And he loved the mountains. He always loved hiking. So he was doing tons of trail running before I think a lot of us knew it was even a thing or became a bigger thing. And so when he met my mom, he was training for the Pikes Peak Marathon in Colorado.
Okay. And how did he even hear about that? Because you grew up in Minnesota?
We grew up in Minnesota. He was from the East Coast.
Okay.
Went to Minnesota for work, met my mom, stayed, kind of the rest is history. But he was in the running community, and he had gone out to Colorado a bunch just to kind of train. And so heard about it through his small running community. And for him, that was a race he really wanted to do. And I believe he crushed it. But yeah, I have a really cool picture of him coming in through the finish.
Oh, that's amazing. I just read a book recently about just the origins of the Western states. And in the earlier days, they were talking about how they would advertise for it. And I'm imagining your dad kind of finding out on this, because they would send out these magazine, or they would put ads in magazines, and like people would just cut out these old magazine articles. And that's how you found out about a race back then.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating to me that he found out about it and, well, just was able to go crush it. So
yeah,
very cool. So you've done all of these races. You've done Ironman, tons of different races. When was your first ultra that you did?
the first ultra marathon was probably 5 years ago. It ended up being Leadville 100. And then prior to that, though, I did a couple 50s to train for it. So probably that was my first, or 50-miler trail races, which were in Minnesota to train at the time. That's where I was training for it. And then first dipping my toe in 100 was Leadville. I didn't finish Leadville. I got altitude 6. We finished around 67. Mile 67. But then shortly after, 2 weeks after that, I did Superior 100 in northern Minnesota. I mean, I was trained. I think I just got, I got sick. And so I was really ready to do 100. And fortunately, I was able to get in last minute to the Superior 100 and have that experience.
So that was how long ago? How long did that take place between Leadville and Superior? Because that's
2 weeks.
2
weeks of Leadville, or maybe it was 3. It was about 2 or 3 weeks, because since Leadville was, I think, August 19th that year, and then it was right over Labor Day was the Superior.
And so you were hungry, ready to go.
I was ready to go.
Okay. I can, well, and Leadville is unique just with its altitude.
Yeah.
I think it surprises people with how they're going
It
to feel going
does.
into it.
It really does. And I think it is so high up. I went to the camp. I did the camp and I actually I definitely felt it, right? Because you're 10,000 feet and only going up, as you know, since just completing it too. But I was good at camp, but I think the race, you don't know sometimes when it's going to hit you. I've always been fairly good with altitude. I've done some other altitude things, but just hit.
Okay. And you said 67 miles. So you had made it. You made it past Twin Lakes or
back? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I made it over Hope and back.
The backside of Hope Pass is a different level of pain.
Different.
And
you can't describe it.
No.
You gotta experience it.
I don't know if that was your experience, but like for me, I always joke that if there was a bell up there that you could just ring it and a helicopter would swoop in and say, I would have contemplated just get me out of here. It's a special kind of just pain. So what caused you to drop out of that one, if I can ask? Was it
that one? I missed the
cutoff?
Yeah. Okay. I was stopping so much because I was so sick. I just couldn't get the time back.
Got it.
But I think I would have kept going, but it was the cutoff. I missed the cutoff at 67.
Knowing what I know about you and just your story and pushing your perseverance, I have no doubt that you would have kept going. Yeah, man. Well, so you did that and then you did Superior, which I've heard Superior is just a brutal in its own right. I mean, just a very difficult. How was that race?
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. I think I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but really, really technical course. So again, hard to get speed, lots of roots and rocks, and you don't have the elevation, but it's just a slower race because you can't get that running. I think you have the first 20 miles you can run and get some pretty good pace. I mean, I think I was doing an 8-minute mile those first 20 miles, and then because it was fairly flat. But once you started getting more into the thick of the trails, that's where you not having grown up or really training on that type of terrain really slowed me down. So I think there were some miles I was going 30-minute miles through some of it through the night. Yeah.
What caused that big shift and just speed difference?
I think a lot of it was that terrain. I think there was just no way. You really had to watch every single step with the rocks and the roots, and you were climbing. Like there were times I was climbing up over rocks to stay on that trail. And I think that was a lot of it. It just was hard to get that speed going because of the terrain.
I've heard that one as well. And just looking at it, because I've been up there for work actually quite a bit. And there's not, you look in, I'm pointing off in the distance because the mountains are right here in Colorado mountains. Whereas you don't have that. But I think that one, I mean, Superior has 18, 19, it's got a sizable amount of elevation gain the whole time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And to be able to pick that up, there's got to be it's almost like a death by 1,000 cuts type of thing where you're just up, down, up, down.
It's a great way of putting it. I think that's, it was really, it was very humid, but it was an interesting race. But I had a coach who did a ton of ultras. He did Leadville actually a handful of times. And so my coach for my ultras that year, he told me he would never do Superior, mainly because of
really
the terrain. He's like, I just wouldn't enjoy it. And I was like, I get it now.
Yeah.
I finished. Yeah.
But would you go back and do it again?
No.
That difficult?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just didn't enjoy it. I think there were people, of course, there like all races who go back every year. But for me, I didn't enjoy that type of ultra.
That makes sense. But it's amazing that you did it just 2 weeks after Leadville. I love that. Like that to me, it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
The fact that you dove in and did that. So this was did you say 2017? 2022? Okay.
22. Yeah.
Okay. And so you had Leadville, then Superior. At what point in time did you say, because I don't think you probably started out saying, I'm going to do Moab, unless maybe you did.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I think the first time, probably through something, maybe it was, we didn't have the ad clippings like back in the day to find the races, but I think there may be some Facebook forum mentioned some 240 race. And I think in my mind, especially going to Leadville camp, it came up a little bit, but I was like, no way on earth would I ever do that. But there was this curiosity though. It wasn't because I said that too. I said that with my Ironmans. I said that with 100-mile races. I'll never do these, right? And here I'm doing them. And there was just this curiosity about Moab. I mean, there are other 200-mile races, but there was something about Moab that just kind of stuck with me. And yeah, that's kind of where the seed was planted, was kind of when I started dipping my toe into these ultra runs.
I love how similar it is for all ultra runners, how we all start out with, oh yeah, I'm doing this, but I would never do that.
Right.
And then a year later, you're, hitting the sign up button and just doing it. Well, when you think about Moab, what enticed you with it? What did you find intriguing with it?
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of the distance, but how people described it, they said a little, yes, the beauty, spiritual, but just kind of the concept of it, how it came together, how it's really rare people will even go that distance. And I always thought we were in a super small community doing 100 miles. And it's like, you can't even imagine then the percentage of folks that do 200 plus.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just so fascinated by the fact that a human body could even do this, and the 100, let alone anything 200 plus. So I think those were some of the things about Moab that stayed with me.
Mm. And that Moab is a big loop, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that correct?
It's a big loop. Yeah.
Because I've looked at a couple of them that are loops or point to point. I think Cocodona is a point to point across Arizona.
Yeah.
And they all look, it's very interesting to see the terrain and just everything that goes into it. Is fascinating. So you did these in 2022. When did you discover or say, what, Moab this is it. I'm going to make this happen?
Things had to fall in place. My kids were pretty young. My company moved me out to the East Coast to run our New York City sales team at the time. And so I was going through relocation with the family, the two little kids. So much of this is also a mental piece. There's one thing to manage time and do physical. So there's the time component, right? That, and none of us have time, right? But the reality of a relocation and two little kids, it's just, for me to train for any ultra at that point was pretty unrealistic. So I did some halves. I did like the New York City Marathon. Very normal races. But I think once I was able to really manage different work schedule, I switched jobs. The kids were a little more self-sufficient. This was the time. Again, no perfect time. You got to find ways to make it work. And I know we'll probably talk about that, but I think that's when I entered the lottery. It was early January of 2025 and got in.
Okay. How many people apply for that lottery?
Thousands.
Oh, really?
All over the world. Yes, that's what I heard.
Okay,
but
yeah.
We could ping Candace to ask, but
I didn't. I knew it was a lot. I would have guessed less though, because it just at the 240, I would not have guessed.
Yeah.
And you got in. This was your first time applying, and you got in the first time.
Yes, and I didn't know this. So then, of course, you meet people as you run, and people have been trying for years to get in. And so those are where there's things in life where you kind of know are meant to be.
Yep. This was your year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you found out in January that Moab was happening. And that's September?
Yeah.
Or was it October? October.
Yeah. October 10th was the start.
So you got 9 months basically to train up.
Yes.
And get ready to go for it. What was your goal? What was your game plan? What did you hope to have happen at Moab as you thought about it at that point in time?
Yeah, great question. I think the big one always, and it always had been, was just to finish.
Okay.
I think knowing it can get really daunting. I think any big ultra can get daunting when you think about the mileage. I immediately, though, started interviewing coaches. I landed with a great coach, Cliff Pittman, out of CTS group. And so he put together a plan right away. So I ran, throughout January and then landed with him, and we started executing his plan in February. And I think that was great because we would do weekly calls and text. He was pretty accessible. I got to run with him at a training camp. But my big goal for Moab was to ultimately finish that race.
Okay. And no time goal. Let's just knock this out and just finish.
Yeah, we had a goal because I was doing pretty well through training. So he was able to back into what I really like about Cliff too, is there's a lot of analytics just with, we recorded a lot of my data just through running and nutrition and all of that to back into some stuff. So we landed on 90. We thought even it could be a little bit less. And obviously it ended up being with, again, conditions you can't control with the weather, cutting it super close. We were thinking like 90 hours.
And the cutoff is How many hours is the cutoff? Because it's 5 days.
117. Yeah,
117.
117.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and so I'm so curious to jump further ahead, but I'm going to
Yeah.
fight the urge to ask some of those questions as well. And so you're in Jersey, found out in January. What's going on in your life right now around this training plan that you put together?
Yeah. And that was the great part about Cliff too. Like, work is extremely important. Kids are really involved in a lot of activities. So how do we, I said, I'll wake up at any hour. Like, I'm not concerned about getting training in, but here's the things that are going on, whether at conferences or work travel or big meetings that I just needed extra time to prepare for, kids' sports or vacations. And we just planned ahead. And then it was really what we did is we didn't focus on miles in the training plan. We focused on hours running. And I think a lot of kind of coaches, especially with these big ultras, tend to do that. And so I just had to get in hours before work. Rain or shine, I'd be out there. Sometimes because of kids, I'd have to be on the treadmill, right? Putting in 4 hours on a treadmill is not ideal, but you find ways when you have a goal to make it work.
And so this is something that's fascinating to me that I was actually contemplating. I put together my training plan for 2026.
Yeah.
And normally I go off of miles, but actually this year I'm switching and over to time.
Yeah.
What was that switch like for you going from miles to times?
That's a good question because that was my initial was always miles. And I feel like the miles helped me maybe be a little faster. But speed's not a big thing. But I think I was just because I just wanted to get it done. I was like, hours. I could just, let me go slower up this hill. Maybe I'll even walk. I think that was the mental shift. So I don't know if miles would be better for me from a speed standpoint.
Yeah, that's. Well, I think about my run this morning because I knew I was, I haven't switched over to the time yet, but I knew I'm just doing 8 miles this morning. It's 14 degrees out. I'm freezing cold. I didn't wear enough gear. And so I was moving, probably pushing that upper end of zone 2. Yeah. Whereas I think you hit the nail on the head with it, that once it's a time thing, I'm going to be out here for whatever the time frame is.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how fast I'm going. I would imagine you could do more of that slower zone 2 kind of freely. Is that what you experienced with it?
Yes. And I think that's a lot of the goal of the coaching is to keep you consistently in that zone 2 for a long period of time.
That makes a ton of sense. And so you have kids sports, you've got work, you've got vacations, all of this stuff going on. Was the early morning your favorite time to go train? I guess your easiest time to go train? Or did you find
Yeah. Okay. No, good question. It was. And so I think, there were 2 a.m. wake ups a lot of times, right? Because I had to get on a 7 a.m. train to the city. There were times where it was just in the neighborhood. I didn't get to go to the trails. And sometimes it's really hard in those hours to practice nutrition. But, you make some of the little bits of sacrifices to when you have a laser focus on a goal.
And as you think about January towards that October timeframe, which I would imagine there was some taper on that, so maybe September timeframe, what sort of hurdles did you run into during your training lead up to it?
Yeah, it was long. It was really long. I think, when I was in Minnesota, when I first started training, and even in my Ironman days, right, and doing those races, I had this community that I could go out with for bike rides. They might have not have been doing Ironmans, but they would join me on a bike ride for a certain period of time. Or when I was training for something like a Leadville, they may not join me for the miles, but they'll come for 10 miles, right? And so there was always some sort of community when it came to a race like this. Yes, there's probably communities out here, but there's also, I'm going at crazy hours of the day, right, to get this in. So it's not that there's not even a community or someone who would join you. It's just you've got to do it within your schedule to make it work. And so I think for me, it ended up being very long. It was a slog. I think the hardest parts for me were probably July and early August. I was able to go to a camp over Memorial Day, which was just a highlight, right? To run in Colorado, to be around other runners. I think that really recharged me and gave me some confidence too of just where I was at in my training. But the training was really hard.
What part
just
of the training?
Mentally increasing that volume, making it work, feeling extremely just alone in this, sometimes questioning, why am I actually doing that? Digging deep to really understand what is this why, right? Because you are tired And, to be able to execute both at your job as a mom, but then also, in this, it really did require a lot of saying no to a lot of things. Just mentally having to clear my mind so I could execute on those three things: work, being a mom, and then this race. And, nutrition was a huge part of it. Hydration. I think all of that plays a key role into being successful in it. But a lot of that is a mental strain. And I think when the volume really increased in July in that early August timeframe, and you're out 8 hours in the woods by yourself, listening, I don't know, to whatever music, it's just, it gives you a lot of time alone in your thoughts. And
So
yeah.
I'm curious to ask, what did you land on? If is your why there? Because you said you have to have that. What was your why you discovered in that training? What was that why for you?
I think the why for me with a lot of these races has never been one thing. And I think I've always wanted it to be, right? Because they always say that, like, no, your why. And I think, for me, there's an element. I look at life as, and I have for a long time, and it could be because I was close to my father. He passed away. He lived life big and large, and, taking advantage of different opportunities physically, with his job, with us as kids, just always being fully present. I think there's something where I look at life like this is our one shot. I look at example of for my kids, just what I'm setting, and I want them to dream big and go after big things. So there's some motivation there. I think there's a closeness to my dad that I feel when I do these things, because he introduced me to it. And then I think ultimately it's always, what can you unlock in that next level of yourself? Because if you can unlock certain levels that you didn't even know existed, that leads to tons of positive benefits throughout your life. The ripple effect is enormous.
I love everything inside of that answer with that. And that one connection to your dad, I don't want to just gloss over that, because I'm just imagining you running and having that, that mental connection with him. And, my mom passed away before my kids were born.
Yeah.
And so I share that. I don't know when your dad passed away, but just I'd imagine it maybe brought some good feelings for you to know that he would be super proud of you and the things that you're doing. But you mentioned the unlocking of levels. Tell us some more about that.
Yeah. I mean, you think about a race like this, and if you go in, or even 100, right? And you're thinking about the 240. You're never going to get through a 240 when you're thinking about the 240. So much of, and even a training schedule like this, if I looked at January and everything I had to do leading up to October 10th, it is beyond daunting. It is truly chunking out the process. It is the 1 mile at a time. It's the 1 hour at a time. It's the 1 day at a time. The presence you have to have and feel to take on something like this is very real. And so when you think about an unlock of that, and just how that can transform as a parent, as a leader, is something that is benefits beyond just training for a race. There's just a true presence that you have to have, and patience and trust in a process to break something apart. And also just how you're calibrating to focus. Like, I know at 45 minutes, I have to eat something, right? I know. And it's the simplification of something really big to accomplish then, the ultimate goal.
Where have you seen that presence show up? And I know you wear many, many hats, just as a parent, as a mother. Where have you seen that show up?
Yeah, I think it is also just how I approach my kids, right? And what I think we're in a world as parents too, where they're pulled in so many different directions. I live in a town that's really competitive with sports, right? I mean, kids are in private lessons at like 5 years old. And in my mind, I'm like, I played D1 hockey, and I'm like, what? Like, what are we doing here? But I think you're pulled and feel pressure as a parent to put your kids in everything, for them to be able to act a certain way, speak a certain way, read at a certain level, be able to perform a certain way at different sports. And, when you really just focus back on, like, who do we ultimately just want to be in the world, our calling as parents is we want to just raise really good humans, right? And so even just a simplification of cutting the noise of that, and what listening to them. What are they gravitating to? Patience even with them and being present with them. I think also not only the pressure of parents and wanting to be at certain levels because of society or whatever community we're in, I think also our attention as parents. I always say being a parent, kids aren't hard. We have tired parents that are pulled in 1,000 different directions and overstimulated. And that's why kids can be hard. And I think putting away the phone sometimes, truly focusing on let's go play a board game or let's go for a walk, those types of things. I think, you don't need to train for a 240-mile race to realize that. But I think it's an example of just awareness that can come out of it and have an impact in kids, being a mom.
When I'm thinking about, we were playing, our kids got Settlers of Catan Jr. for Christmas, which I'm so we're a big board game family, and that one has just been, it's really on their level right now that they're into it. And to me, with what you just shared, that's that 45-minute, it's time to get some nutrients on this run. That presence of saying sometimes we just need to stop, and this is that parenting hack of everything else is down and we're just going to play a board game right now.
Yep.
And that we're not winning the parenting goal today, but this is the nutrients that we're taking right now.
I like that.
Well, it's from you, so thank you for sharing that.
You packaged it.
Well, it's been just picking up what you're putting down. I really I love that insight that you bring to it. And so one other thing I wanted to ask about too, because you mentioned that you had to, in order to do something this big, while keeping everything intact, you had to say no to a lot of things. Yeah. And I don't know if you're willing to share, what are some of those things that you had to say no to, or you felt like you were important to say no to at the time?
Yeah. I think there's social things, right?
Okay.
For me, I love community of friends and being with them, but there are things that, I couldn't join. I had to sleep, right? I think there were things where, even with nutrition wise, I guess it's not saying no to nutrition, but being really, really disciplined in, what I was consuming. I don't want to say I gave up all alcohol, but I, definitely limited a lot of that and other things. So there's good whole foods I was bringing into my body and recovering mechanisms I was doing, and water, because I think so much of when you're not getting probably the sleep that you need, you've got to really find ways to find rest and recovery in different ways. And that's through nutrition. And that's also then when I think about even work. And so you think of some of the ripple effects and the unlock in work. I think there's, any of us, I don't want to just say women, but there is a tendency to always say yes to things, to lead the project, to take the notes, to send the recap, to lead the team meeting, to raise your hand and say, I'll do that initiative, or to do more initiatives. And I think, not just this race caused this, but I think over the course of years of being in kind of probably maturity, like just in a career, but also, and in leadership, I also think the races have helped. And Moab, where you really understand what is important. And so it's not just translating to the kids, but you really understand what's important. So saying no to some things at work, or if they are really important for the company, who can you tap into to elevate, to lead that instead? And so that delegation piece too. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily a no at work. It's just understanding a bigger picture of what's truly important to drive the goal. And I think that's anything. It's like, what is your goal? What are we trying to accomplish this quarter or this year? I'm in sales, right? Well, then who are the people you have on the team? Who are the people you need on the team? And then what are those key 3 to 5 strategies you need to achieve? And then how do you back into that and make sure everyone's firing at all cylinders and they're supported the way they need to be supported? So, and I think races lend it to that.
Say that one more time.
I think races and training really help lend to that. Again, there is maturity in your career, but I think there is this compression that happens when you train for something this big, whether it's the 100s or the Ironmans or the 240, that condenses these learnings, these life learnings, in a way that years of experience can.
That's really fascinating to think about. And what I heard with that too is almost making you a better leader, and that you do have to delegate. And I think, and I did an interview recently with this Mike Abersaw is a Navy ship commander, and just he mentions and references how you have to kind of give up a little bit to get command. And that's kind of what I heard with what you're sharing too, is that where can I delegate this piece? Because I have to now.
Yeah.
Like I have to choose to say no to other things, which would, in theory, make you an even better leader at work, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
So thinking about the social things, because I think that this is what a lot of people in life, and I say a lot of people, I think myself too, but when you're training, you do say no to things. There are things you say no to, because you just, eventually something's got to give when you're doing that level of training. And you look back at, you said June, July were the toughest times. Was there anything you look back at and say, man, I regret saying no to so many things during that time?
No, now I don't.
Okay.
No. And I don't think I did in the moment. I think I was grateful to have the coach that I had to talk to and be open about just feeling like things were a lot. I mean, there was a point in time where, it felt like so much running. I do like running, but it was so much running. And I asked if we could just substitute even like the Peloton or a bike in for some of our runs sometimes. And that was a huge shift. Who knew that little tweak, one day a week I could do a Peloton for a couple of hours or whatever versus run was going to just change my training trajectory. But it was like, goodness, I have to run again. 6 days a week. I was like, let's mix it up.
Yeah. And so you were able to just kind of shift gears a little bit.
Yeah. And that helped a lot. Yeah. But there's nothing I regretted, like looking back that I had to say no to.
And I love how quickly you had a no there, because I think in the moment when we're saying no to it, it feels like we're missing out on so much.
Yeah.
I found in my experience that a lot of times those things in my life tend to always be there, like the friends that are doing things socially. If you miss out on insert, Jazz Fest came to mind. I'm from New Orleans originally. Yeah. It's like, it's going to be here next year.
Yes.
And there's going to be 100 other New Orleans style parties that will happen after, and then it's just, it's always going to, like, things like that will always be there. Whereas these opportunities, and I love how quickly it was a no for you, that there was no regret, because I think that's where people that are contemplating doing big things can falter, because there is a little bit of that pressure. And so it's great to know that you didn't have it. And it's interesting too, that June, July, was that the mileage you said was the most difficult?
Yeah, July. Well, then July, August, actually. And then I had the first couple of weeks of September. So a month out of the race, we did the biggest weekend just to kind of simulate the race. So we did, close to 100 miles over that weekend. Hour-wise, that translated to a good amount of, 40 hours plus.
The whole weekend.
I took a day off of work for it. I took a vacation day, PTO, to go run 8 hours, 10 hours on the trail.
I've many a PTO days of just used for trail runs. What was your weekly mileage looking like at that time frame, just out of curiosity, as you think about it?
65, Yeah, 65. Yeah, not like crazy.
Okay. And then you would just sprinkle in some big runs, like you said, a 100-mile weekend. Yeah. That's a big weekend. Yeah,
we would do every week. There were 2 big days back to back, whether it be 4 6 hours or 6 hours 6 hours, and then this one was over 3 days. And then sometimes he would build it in where it was 3 days. So you would have maybe 1 or 2 days per week that were big, like before a work day, anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, and then the weekends would be probably around 6.
Oh, right, and I think too, I asked you a mileage question when you were timing. It was your big thing. So I need to reprogram my own mind to start thinking about that.
I know.
So, or you just
no, I agree. I had to do to do it too.
Just not asking about it in that way, because I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a great shift. So all of this training, all of this preparation, and now you end up in Moab, getting set for the race. I mean, what are you feeling getting started for this is an epic. Yeah. This is an expedition. I mean, that's the whole time that I was following you. This is an expedition in my mind. But what were you thinking at the start line of this and just getting ready for it?
I truly believed it was the reward.
Okay.
from all the training, because the training was, I will still say, kind of the hardest part. I think the one thing too, we were all kind of, the weather conditions, we're all looking at it and we didn't know, like, weather could shift any time, but there was a lot of rain and lightning that Moab had an experience going into this race. So weather was a little on the mind, but I would say overall, I was going in extremely excited just to get there. I had been wanting this for 9 months now and longer, right? When you think about it, it was always a goal and a dream. And I think that I had a lot of peace going into it, a lot of peace. And even at the start line, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't shaking. I just was very just calm and excited to get going.
Interesting. Where do you think that piece came from?
Great question. I think it was the buildup of how much I've wanted to do this, and really, let's see how my body executed from the training. Like, let's see what happens.
Okay. It makes a ton of sense. I can't imagine being calm and peaceful in that moment, knowing what you're about to undertake. And it also makes me think too, that there's, almost that the money's in the bank. You've made the deposits. 9 months of you put the deposits in, and now it's time to cash out. Right. And as long as you put the deposits in, you're ready to go.
Right.
And it's amazing that you were so calm and so ready.
I think so
for
too.
this journey.
I was surprised, because I would say Leadville, I wasn't, right? Like any race I would get, it's just that good, nervous kind of energy. And it's not that I didn't have that. I think it was really knowing that it was a journey or an expedition.
One other thing I wanted to ask you about too is, because you've got this expedition, you've got this calming piece, and yet you do literally have a storm upon you, which actually I believe you looked it up. Let me know if I'm off on this, but it was the most rain Moab has ever experienced in 150 years.
Yeah.
So what was the thinking going on at that point in time?
Yeah. I think there's a level of kind of delusional positivity that we all have doing these ultras. And so I think a lot of us it can't be that bad. Right. And even Candace, when we were doing the race kind of rundown the day before, it's this could happen. They gave us the flash flooding, what we would need to do, because we're in the desert, they can't absorb. So we could run into flash floods. We did go through all that protocol, but it was, again, this positivity, we've talked to the locals, we think it's going to be fine. And so we just kind of believe that. And, it did mist a little bit on that first day, but I remember going through the first night and it was just wind, fog, and torrential downpour for 10 hours. Even in my mind, getting to that next aid station, and that also is where you were doing 20-minute miles, 25, you just could not get the speed because it was slippery. You couldn't see the flags. But I remember thinking, well, that was the first night. It can't be that bad after that. There's no way this is going to keep going. Yep. And it did.
The entire time.
Yeah. So we had a little bit of a respite where it did get, I think, only hot once quickly, maybe an hour or two. And then where you truly got the desert, what Moab's known for is the heat during the day, cold at night. And then it was really overcast. And I got, I finally was able to pick up my pacer at mile 68, because you couldn't have a pacer till mile 68. And I, the first time, the interesting part about 240s versus 100s too is how far apart the aid stations are. I don't know if that's all 200 plus races, or if it was specifically, I know a lot of with Moab was just protection of the land and just permits and wanting to avoid some traffic. And so I saw my crew at mile 17, and then I didn't see them till I think close to mile 126 around. So I went almost 100 miles without seeing, or 100 miles without seeing my, over 100 miles without seeing my crew. And there were still aid stations, but they were also really far apart. So I think that was something that I knew about it because I did a lot of studying on Moab prior. I just think I wasn't it just surprised me. You had to carry a ton on you.
Well, I was just going to ask you, what did you pack differently? Number one, you're going slow because of the weather. Number two, because it's already even if the weather wasn't bad, that's a big spacing in between these.
Yes. And so that's what they kind of prepare you for too. So I was carrying tons of water on me. I practiced with that. Nutrition. We did all have to have emergency 500 calories. We did have to have some emergency equipment on us, and nutrition was part of that. But then on top of it, I was carrying a good amount of nutrition. I think the hard part was knowing my times were so far off, but I wasn't alone, right? After that first night, everyone was behind on their times. So you're not the only one experiencing some of that and just kind of the belief like I got to just trudge through and kind of try to make up as much as I can. But yeah, you're carrying quite a bit.
Yeah, I was watching, I think somebody had sent me an Andy Glaze video clip, I think. I could be misquoting it, but it essentially just showed trail shoes and they were packed with mud. I mean, and just, I was imagining you out there with like 5-pound weights on your feet.
Oh,
I mean, it's just, it had to have been so heavy, just being soaking wet, slushing along. Just, how did you handle that? Just continuing to go through that level of just, when is this going to stop?
Yeah. I think you also have an acceptance, a delusional acceptance of this is just what I can't control this. Right. And I think there were points, yes, where after another storm that second night and then turning these corners and realizing these huge pieces of mud, my shoes were falling off. Like it was taking us an hour to go a mile because the mud was so much. Like you just got stuck. I remember I never have thrown out equipment before, but I had to absolutely throw out those shoes. There was like no salvaging after this mud. But yeah, it was a lot.
So like after it was done, the shoes were trashed. Those are...
Yeah, there was just no way I was gonna,
hang them up.
No.
Okay.
I think the other thing of planning too for something like this is I think we had over 15 aid stations and I just packed not knowing, things could happen with the crew and the weather. So I packed all the essential equipment in the drop bags, which I think was really important. So I did pack change of clothes and extra calories and shoes. And they would just, if they got there, would grab it. But if they didn't, like we just planned ahead so I could change out. So I think that was really important. But that was like the level of planning. I spent hours creating this beautiful color-coded spreadsheet of just every aid station, if this, then that my crew was literally like studying.
Okay.
But it was just a different level of planning for something too with the weather conditions. I remember before leaving, because I was looking at the rain and I was talking to my coach, I was like, I have all these extra shoes, but I was like, I think I need more. And he's like, you'd rather just be overprepared. And I remember going to the store and just buying like 3 extra pairs of shoes just to have them. And I did. I used them.
I was going to ask you if you ended up using the extra pairs.
Yeah, I did. But feet were destroyed. I don't think I knew how bad because every aid station they would tape over. But I think because of because of the conditions, my feet absolutely got wrecked.
Yeah, I saw pictures of your feet afterwards and they were
so gross.
Just that it's, I can't imagine how painful that it must have been. But even just switching into, dry shoes, which actually I want to go back to something you said earlier too, because I think it's important to talk about too, because you said there's a level of acceptance that this is what's going on. And it makes me think about, there's a lot of studies done on veterans and military members in POW camps. Mm-hmm. And there's typically 2 people in those camps, that one group that says, oh, we're going to be out by insert next holiday. Mm-hmm. Oh, we're going to be out by insert this next holiday. And the other group that just says, no, we're here. This is it. And those people tend to survive the longest because they're just accepting of it. Whereas the group that is always, they're constantly disappointed. Mm-hmm. What do you think caused you to accept just the reality that it's soaking wet right now? Because I would have had to imagine that if you would have kept thinking over the next sunrise, it's going to dry up, that there would be a certain amount of craziness. What do you think went into that thinking?
That's interesting to think about the next holiday, or like, no, this is what it is. And I think that's exactly why I finished this race and others did. I think that, I thought about this for a while with Moab, because a lot of people are like, how did you get through all this? People dropped out because of the weather. I don't think it's just experience with races, because there have been races where I get to that point. Like it's going to be this, right? Or it's going to be that. And I think it's not just the race experience, but I think it's life experience. I think there's a lot you draw on to complete something like this that goes beyond just having experience in races. And I think about that goes through a lot of things we've all battled through in life. We all have things, right? And you draw upon all of that as you're executing on something like this. And I think I feel like it was a culmination of, I I turned 40 this year. So I think it was a culmination of 40 years on this planet that it was drawing me into this, the kind of mental capacity of that true acceptance.
Okay. I love it. And then happy 40th
Well, thank
to
you.
you. What a great way to just absolutely crush your 40th.
Thanks.
I'll go do the 240.
I did
What a
say
great
yes
year.
to my 40th party. I said yes to that.
Okay. When was that? Was that,
That was
during
July. July 1st. Yeah, it was during the
Okay.
training. Yeah.
Did you just kind of let go a little bit
I
and
did.
have some fun? Oh, well,
And that was
good.
important. Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say, I bet that probably helped with the sanity
did.
check-in of life.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. During the race, was there a time, and I have to imagine there was, where you felt like quitting became an option? Where it was like,
No.
okay, not at all.
There was never a doubt I could finish this, right? And I think it was just, I was going to finish this. I mean, part of it too for me was like, I'm not coming back here and doing this again.
Okay.
It's like now or never.
Okay. And because you, with having that experience at Leadville, you knew what it was like to be up against cutoffs. And I don't know, were you up against cutoffs at all at Moab?
Only at the end. I actually
Just only at the end.
I got in a good spot kind of in the middle and got more in the middle chunk of things. But it was that fourth night that really set me back.
Okay. And, so
and even then I was okay, like in the big scheme of things.
Really? Even on the fourth night, you were good to go? Yeah.
So we still had a good chunk of hours. I mean, it was way past 90 was not happening. 100 was not going to happen. 110 hours wasn't going to happen, but I had a good buffer between 110 and 117 hours for finishing time. And so when I got to that 200-mile mark, I mean, that was the worst night. The fourth night, I think that's where the culmination of a lot of things hit. It was, people who were out there. And that's the difference between like the people who finished earlier in the race, who didn't have the fourth night, and me and a bunch of others. Like, that was probably the scariest night for a lot of us.
What made that scary?
For me, where I was at the point of the race, it was the second technical. There's kind of two technical climbs. I think there's a lot of technicality in Moab, but these were considered the two technical climbs. And so I was at that between 185 and 200 was the climb. And, you're going up to 10,000 feet and down, and just it's to get to the 200-mile base camp. And I think our aid station, and I think what happened was, it was great, actually. I got a picture under rainbows, like all leading up to this kind of 185-mile mark where it was 15 miles in. And we were in the aid station getting some food. I took like a 30-minute nap, maybe 20-minute nap, actually. And we were getting ready to leave. And all of a sudden, the wind everything was blowing. It went completely fog, and the wind was, 40, 60 mile per hour winds, and it just dropped the temperature below freezing. We had to go. We had to move. So my pacer and I, we left the aid station, and that's where I was like, no way on earth. I couldn't even see him in front of me. Even though he was super close, and he was looking for all the flags, and that's where I was starting to think like, no way on earth this could last this long. This has to go away. No, it lasted all night. And that was where it was taking us an hour to go a mile. And I think the hard part there, they were sending out search and rescue crews. We were freezing. So you think we had great gear. He had Gore-Tex. Like, we were soaked to the bone. We're falling on mud nonstop because it's so slippery. You're just falling. You can't even get a step in. And all you can do is move forward. You can't stop because you have to cling to any piece of warmth you had. There was a lot of thoughts in people's minds that we kind of just quickly assessing after kind of getting through that night, where some of us did think we were going to die. Yes, we were hallucinating and super tired. That's where even though we had a lot of food, I was like running out of food at that point because it was, longer than you would ever imagine. I remember we had emergency bivy blankets, and I had to wrap mine around me. This is a great thing about the community too. Some people were passing me, loaded me with some food, and also they had an extra bivy and wrapped it around like my legs. So I had like this, kind of almost like a dress, like around like a shawl and like a skirt of this emergency blanket, and just falling constantly in the mud. And I remember my pacer, we have no choice. Like, there is no one coming to save us. You have to get to anything warm or to get we have to get to the aid station.
Right.
And I think that was the heart in my mind was, oh my God. And as a mom, like there were definitely thoughts like this could be it. And I think I never had that in my life. And so,
Okay.
you experienced probably your time, with military, but like I hadn't had that ever.
So, I mean, in that face, though, of this could be it and continuing, what gave you the strength and motivation to keep going?
It just wasn't a choice. And I
Okay.
think like getting it finally, probably 4 miles out from the aid station, again, these angels just appear, whatever you want to call them. But I think these angels just appear. And I was actually, my watch stopped and I kind of got a little lost. My pacer at this point kind of ran ahead because I wanted to tell them to help a lot of people behind us too, right? To get search and rescue a little bit out there faster. And so I was like, go ahead, I'll be fine. I had the map on my thing. My watch dies. This thing's supposed to last however long, and we had it charged. I have no idea. And now all of a sudden I still can't really see the flags. It's cold and cloudy. It's not raining anymore. But this group came, these two pacers, they're two runners, and they're like, follow us. Our goal is to do 20-minute miles. So within these last 4 miles. So you guys have time to eat and sleep before you embark on your final 40. And I was like, okay. They're like, but you've got to keep up with us. And I just did. I just stayed with them. And it's just, out of the blue, they came and I just followed them to the aid station. And I think that kind of rejuvenated me. And what I also realized too is, even looking back on this, I think so much I was still shaken up even when the race was finished about those 15 miles. But I also realized life isn't those 15 miles, right? I finished this race. That race was 240. And I think we sometimes in life, we go through things and we can get stuck. We can get paralyzed by certain things in life. And you have to realize like, this is a blip on your radar of life. And I'm not ever going to have, as scary as those 15 miles were, it's not going to define my Moab experience.
What do you think those connections are in life that people have that are similar to that? Like, where does that show up for them?
I think a lot of us go through really hard things. It could be a death of a parent. It could be something with a child. It could be something with work, right? I think it all can vary on the level of degree of it is. Everyone deems hard things differently than others to that level of degree in which it is hard for you. But I think those things can really put people frozen in time, make people not want to take risk, not work through some of those things. Knowing that there's light at the end of the tunnel, I think people can get really trapped in a lot of that, and it can dictate the choices they make for the rest of their life.
And what advice would you give to them in those moments when they're going through those tough things?
I can say there's light, but take one step. Just take one step forward.
Okay. Just take one more step.
One more step.
That's
then
beautiful.
Get yourself to take another step.
I love that. And you had mentioned earlier with that too, your pacers, and I want to reference one. I know you had several, but she is a hero to me. I've never even met her, and I am secretly in love. I've told my wife all about her, so she knows. But Tracy actually paced you for 100 miles of this journey. How did you meet Tracy? And she was with you towards the end too, wasn't she? She got you.
Yes.
So how did you meet Tracy? How did that whole thing come about?
Yeah. So she did she did 60 miles, right? Because we couldn't see the crew for a while. So she did 60 miles, meeting me at mile 67, 68, until we could see the crew again. And then she did the final 40 with me. I met her, our coaches connected us. So I met her coach at that running camp in Colorado Springs over Memorial Day weekend. I needed pacers. So my coach reached out to that whole group, and that coach reached out to Tracy, who just completed Cocodona 250. And Tracy's like, I'm in, and worked with her coach to keep her running up so she could be prepared to pace a good amount of mileage. But we weren't going into that race thinking she was going to do 100. So she was going to go do a good chunk, but it wasn't going to be 100. And so what she did was pretty phenomenal.
Oh, she's, it's absolutely incredible that she just stepped up. And I mean, that's a legit ultra marathon just in pacing for her to step in and do. It's absolutely fascinating. And
then think about like the mind shift too, for me, like how I was that 60 miles initially. To then how I was just completely didn't know where I was the last 40, especially the last 20. Didn't know where I was, like hallucinating. My feet are absolutely killing me. And I didn't know how bad they were right until they were bandaged, but every step hurt. And I didn't know. I thought that's just what this was. And she didn't know, right? But she had to pull out every trick in the book to get me to move. And she was very aware of the cutoff times.
Oh, I think we all that were following you were, all of us were very aware of the entire thing. Not so much like Tracy, but just I think that's absolutely pivotal. And you I know you said there was no possible way you were stopping, but I'm imagining you with just excruciating pain in your feet.
Yeah.
20 more miles had to have felt like forever at that point in time. And still you were just not stopping.
I wasn't. I also didn't realize how close we were until kind of close we were to the time cutoff. It didn't really dawn on me until the sun started to break.
Okay.
And Tracy told me, and I actually saw the sweepers coming behind us. So we were probably, I forget how many miles out at that point, maybe 7. And we were still working our way down some terrain. And I just wanted to get to that road. I was like, if I get to this road, I'm going to run. I don't care. I'm going to run however fast I possibly can. I don't care if it hurts. Like, I just need to get off this kind of terrain that's kind of making me a little slower because it just was so rocky. And so it just hurt so much to move. And so that's when I realized how close we were to that cutoff at that point. But that took a long time. I didn't know it for
what took a long time
for me to realize how close we were.
Oh, yeah, it was
to the cutoff.
And that last, I don't know the exact time frame, so correct me if I'm off base, but your last 4 miles, I believe you had, of everybody, even the winner of the race, you had the fastest last 4 miles of the Moab 240. Is that correct?
I think that could be. Yeah. We got to verify that, but that's pretty cool. I think that's probably true. I told you I was going to run.
Yeah. Well, no. And that's what you did. I mean, I believe that was what I heard after the fact was just Tracy said, this is what we're doing or we're not finishing. And something in you just buckled in and just, you win. And I believe you put in, now I want to verify it just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure you had the fastest split of anybody in that last 4 mile section.
It could be even 5 too. I think Candace mentioned something about 5 miles, the race director to us at the end, but I was so out of it. But she mentioned something like that. I think Tracy and Claire overheard it. Claire, my crew captain, and best friend. But I think, but I think that's one hell of a best friend. I'll tell you that.
Claire.
We've been through a lot together. She sent me a picture the other day of us in like heels and dressed to the nines at like all these galas and events we used to do. And I'm like, and now we're crewing races.
Claire told me about one of the night, I believe it was the night you guys met.
Oh gosh.
Well, I thought it was what a beautiful thing because it was something about it. It was cold out with heels and she was taking care of your feet. Yeah. And I just had to stop and the camera's like, wait a minute. So the night you met, you started taking care of her feet. And now to this day, you're still out there taking care of her feet.
That's right. It's full circle.
That's so amazing. No, she's absolutely just an incredible person, incredible resource.
Yes.
It's
so key. Like you know this, like running ultras, that team is so key when you do this. I mean, you put in the work and a lot of it too, is you don't want to disappoint them because they're taking time off and they're putting time in. Right. But I think, Tracy, we figured out a good technique for the final 2 miles. And then I told her I was going to run. And I think I even surprised Tracy, and Tracy was like, we can actually walk a little right now. I was like, we're running. And so she's like, okay. So like when we hit the pavement, she's like, no, we can actually like walk a minute. Like we're good. Like we just have to get to that bridge and we turn the corner and then it's like right there. I was like, we're running. But it was pretty great. And I think that I didn't know how big a deal DFL was. And they even say, they draw the biggest crowd of the race, not even, because these aren't spectator sports really. And so I think, even then the first finisher. And so the tunnel of all the finishers and the family, I turn this corner and I have this huge tunnel to run through. And going back and watching it and just even hearing the announcer, like they didn't think I was going to make it. And they're like, we hope you all stick around because Christine's going to come through, but she's not going to make it. Right. But stick around and cheer her on. And then I think hearing the shift in his voice, like, wait a minute. And talking to friends who are watching, like you were probably watching the dot just starting on the little tracker going faster and faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's so incredible. Because for anybody listening or watching this, because I got the video clip of the end and you can actually pull it up on YouTube and watch it. But everybody that was out there, every single person made a big tunnel at the finish line.
Yes.
For you at the end. What was that like for you? What emotions hit you as you hit that finish line and you saw all those people out there celebrating you?
That I couldn't have imagined that in my wildest dreams. Like I didn't, was it a thing? It is a thing. It just was. And I think I told you, remember when I was lost and I came across a couple of those pacers. It was actually a pacer I had seen at several different aid stations, and he was just so funny. And we just had this good connection because he was from the East Coast and making jokes. And he was one of them. And he's like, you're going to stick with me. You're going to finish this race. You're going to do it. And he came running up. He was one of the first people I saw before I entered that tunnel. And he was like, I knew you were going to effing do it. I knew it. And he's like, you got to see this tunnel. And I turned the corner with him, but it was like so great to see him. Nick, I believe his name was. And he was like almost more excited for me than anyone. And, Tracy right there with the biggest grin on her face. And, even as we were running those 4 miles, she's like, just think of everyone you're inspiring right now, Christine. Like, this is just such a story. And I you can't truly comprehend as you're in it, but to go through that tunnel, like I was really overwhelmed, just with such joy.
It's an incredible video to watch. Really, really amazing. And one thing I also didn't know too, that I thought was really cool, and there might be other races that do this. This was the first time I've seen it, but watching you go get your buckle, which I didn't realize that every single buckle at Moab 240 is different and unique.
Yeah.
And you got to go pick one.
Yes.
What was that like for you?
It was, I remember that moment. It was like, how do you even choose something to represent what I just went through? Like, this is like going to be your tangible little takeaway, right? And I think that was very hard to actually like choose one at the time. I was like, oh, pink's my favorite color. So of course I'm going to choose the pink one. But I was like, no, I ended up not. There was something. What was it? There was kind of something representative of nature and like wind, kind of like a storm. But then this bird to me kind of represented like more of a dove and like this peace. And I think that image just stood out to me from, again, all I could collect because my mind was like mush but from the race. And so I chose that one. It was not pink.
Well, and what a beautiful thing to end on though, because you said you had so much calming peace starting the race.
Yeah.
And to end it with that peaceful dove is a great cap at the end of that.
Yeah.
What an incredible journey. I'm still in awe of what you've accomplished with that. It's absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing all of it that went into it. Everything that you've done, especially with everything you have going on in your life is just absolutely just fascinating.
Yeah.
What's next?
I want to have that excitement like I had with all my races. And so it's not that ultras are out. Right now I'm focused a lot on just recovery and mobility. I've only run a couple times since Moab. I've had some ankle stuff just even going into the race. I had some ankle stuff that just was really exposed through the volume of training. So wanting to get my body in a really, really strong, good place. So I've just been super diligent every day about my strength and mobility work and seen some really good results. So that's really encouraging because I do want to run more. I want to do some other races. I want to try different things. I want to climb different types of mountains. I want to go on, tons of different types of adventures. I don't think I'd ever do a 200 plus again, but I'm excited. So this year we'll see. I'm really open. I haven't signed up for anything. I haven't thrown my name in the hat for any lottery. But, we've talked about some races. I'm really open to just kind of looking at everything. There'll be something I do, but this year, but again, this is your whole journey. Like just even if I choose not to do something this year, it doesn't matter. Like it took me 3 years when I did my last ultra to do one again. So, and it ended up being Moab. We
Well,
have
so
time
it was 3 year split between.
because it was 22 when I did Superior, and then I hadn't
Okay.
done anything over 100. It was only halves and then that New York City Marathon. And then it was Moab 240.
Whoa, what a leap.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was the first one
Yeah.
in
Since
many years.
right. Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't think I'll go that long again, but
Okay.
it just was
Well,
the season of life.
yeah. Well, and I guess too, it glosses over, which I think is important to mention too, but your feet were jacked up.
Yeah.
I mean, they were jacked up. Like there
Yeah.
was, what was that like? What was the healing like for
Yeah.
you after the fact? What was
I
that
mean, I
recovery
think
process?
I slept for days.
Okay.
I think it's surprising to some people. Like you think you'd be ravenous and like super hungry after these things. I was not. But I had to like force myself to eat. But yeah, recovery wise, it took me about 2 weeks to fully like walk at a decent pace again. I was limping for a little bit just because one foot in particular was a little troublesome. But yeah, now it's great. Like I can walk pretty far. I can do some distance, and my feet are almost fully healed. So, but that took almost 2 months.
Yeah. When I saw the pictures of it, I mean, it looked like the entire side of your foot was one big blister on both feet. I mean, it was some serious damage, and you
Really
had gone
bad
into
damage.
it with an ankle injury. So you started it with an injury.
Yeah.
What was that injury like?
Yeah. So it was, a lot of it was like sprain caused to the inside of my ankles. It wasn't your typical outside, ankle sprain. And I think that was over years. I think, something that's interesting. I think there was probably a lot of alignment stuff, and I just kept doing races and I kept doing my thing. And I didn't really, there was nothing that caused me to think anything could be wrong from an alignment standpoint or ankle injury. But over the course of years, and then it just really everything when you do a volume training like this and for a race, it comes out. So I think it was a buildup over time of things. I don't think there was one injury that caused the ankle piece of it, but yeah, my left ankle just extremely weak and in a lot of pain. But I did some physical therapy. All of it was runnable. I could do the race. I was never, you're not doing this race, but definitely went in with an injury. Yeah.
It's incredible to me that you had that going on and still just this unwavering mental ability to just, this is happening with not having done an ultra in 3 years is very, very impressive. Very impressive.
Thank you.
Well, of course. Yeah, we kind of mentioned it earlier, and as we kind of wrap up, is there anything you want to share with anybody before I ask you one final question?
No, I think, I think we covered a lot of it, but it is, when you see a potential in humans to do sometimes these really audacious or unbelievable things, you almost want everyone to kind of experience that to whatever level it is for them. Again, it's not always a 100-mile race or a 240 race. It's not always a race, but I think that's where, the one step forward piece is something whoever listens to this or wherever the message ever goes, right? And I think that's kind of a message I want with my life is the moving forward piece. And it doesn't always have to look pretty. Moving forward isn't always pretty, but it is something that, again, unlocks really spectacular things if you can just believe in each step.
I'm going to use that going forward, that unlocking of different levels with one more step is a beautiful, beautiful way to look at it. Somebody shared with me a long time ago. It's something that I've taken with me to many things. I find comfort in it. But it just says we don't rise to the level of our expectations, that we actually fall to the level of our preparation. And I'm just curious to ask you, how does that show up with you in that race specifically? And does that resonate at all with you?
Yeah, I think it absolutely does. I think the preparedness piece is big. I think that translates into all parts of your life, right? I think anything we do, but I think if we take it literally with the race, that preparedness gave me a lot of trust. And that's why I had the peace I had at the start line.
Hmm. Thank you so much for joining us, Christine. You are an incredible human being and just inspiring us to take one more step. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Progress doesn't happen all at once. It only happens 1 mile at a time. If this show resonated with you, pass it along. And until next time, take the shot.